What's up, everybody? This is a touchy subject. It shows, man. We're racist to each other, all races, man. Puerto Ricans, blacks on blacks. It's
Shakur
bugged out,
Stevenson
man.
says that he will now be representing Puerto Rico moving forward. That being said, let's put you on and stick around to the end 'cause I want to elaborate a little bit more on this. Let's go.
Shakur, in your last fight, we saw you put the Puerto Rican flag on your trunks. That's a thing that you do for that fight, or that's something that we're gonna keep seeing on your fight?
Y'all gonna keep seeing that. I think like with my last fight, it was more so like about me being myself, and I just wanted to like to show the world every part of me. A lot of people say that I did that just for like the promo or however, but that's not true because if people don't even pay attention, that I put my nickname on my trunks too, and people didn't even notice that. They didn't notice that my nickname was on my trunk, and I never done that for any fight. I don't know. People just they come up with whatever I ignore them, but at the end of the day, I just wanted to like just show who I am and be myself, and I think that that's very important, and I think that I'm gonna carry that.
So, for your answer, I can call you are a Boricua.
Yes.
I do have a few things I want to say about this that, you know how I am on this channel. I have to be transparent all the way around. But before we get started, to get there, Shakur Stevenson low-key always repped. There'll be certain gaps in his fights, in his career where he might have not repped so much, but he always did kind of rep. The only thing was like it just didn't feel like he was really pushing the culture so much. But he is from America and he is half black, right? Well, he is from the United States and he is half black. So that being said, I understand the reason why Shakur Stevenson is not going, full blown Puerto Rico mode, because his culture is a little different in the States. Just like a lot of Puerto Ricans, whether you have black or just full Puerto Rican from the States, that's how the culture is a little different, right? That's why people don't really like to consider Edgar Belango Puerto Rican and whatnot. And that brings me to my next point. And this is the problem I have with some of our people in our culture. You know what I'm saying? And this is where sometimes I do understand where some of the, controversial black American fans, talk a little crazy and they be like, oh, now y'all want to claim him? Now y'all want to claim him? But in a sense, they do make sense, because one thing I read, somebody had commented before and they say, yo, Vic, a Puerto Rican's worst enemy is another Puerto Rican. A Puerto Rican's worst enemy is another Puerto Rican.
As you see here, because after his fight, Shakur Stevenson had the Puerto Rican flag. Then he had the Puerto Rican flag on his trunks. And they saying it's a complete difference in a fighter.
A Puerto Rican's worst enemy is another Puerto Rican.
That was sent to me. Multiple from Puerto Rico. They're going in, they're saying he's no Cotto. And then people's defending saying, well, Cotto was born in Providence. He wasn't even born in Puerto Rico. But he acknowledged his heritage from the beginning. And they're saying that they feel Shakur Stevenson is doing this to try to gain the fan base to support him. As one even said, he's just a black dude who has Puerto Rican blood and is born in New Jersey. This is why it's just best. You can identify and say, hey, listen, you know what? My father's side people's Puerto Rican, but just be who you are. Remember, the Mexican fan base, they didn't respect Oscar De La Hoya because he was Mexican and medalist. Identify who you are. Puerto Ricans in New York identify as black anyway. I don't know about Jersey. Never lived in Jersey. I'm born and raised in New York. And I said, we got the huge Puerto Rican fan base. Are they going to recognize and adopt Shakur Stevenson? No, they're not. They are not. And so him pulling out the flag and having the flag on his trunks just makes him look silly. They don't respect
Mark Anthony, maybe even J-Lo. I'm not sure if it happened so much with J-Lo, but a lot of times Mark Anthony didn't get accepted as a real Puerto Rican. And then he started going crazy, and all of a sudden, that's my Puerto Rico brother. And I feel like I'm getting the same type of vibes with Shakur. Since I started my channel, and you could look it up, I named Shakur Stevenson. He was the Puerto Rican sniper. That was a nickname personally that I gave him. And it was more or less to cover him on more of a Puerto Rican type of view. But as his career kept going, I was like, I don't know, man. I want to be genuine about this, and I don't want to push him as Black American / Puerto Rican fighter if he's not gonna embrace the Puerto Rican side enough to the extent to give people that, that pride when he comes out into the walkouts or whatnot, in the ring walks. But as I'm noticing, he's being vocal about it. He's telling people, "Yeah, I'm Puerto Rican, bro." His even in this joint, he's like, "Yeah, I'm Puerto Rican." Like, I'm not gonna take that away from somebody because that's just what they are. But I do understand the culture he came from because I came from a similar culture, and I know how that is being full Puerto Rican. So imagine being half Puerto Rican. And the fact that now he actually beat Teofimo Lopez at a time where a lot of Puerto Ricans would have loved to see Teo lose to a Puerto Rican. They're willing to accept this as that because him sharing half Puerto Rican descent with his nationality or his race. Listen, man, I love my people. But we got to, pick a side on stuff. You know what I'm saying? We can't, the fact that he's half black and half Puerto Rican, and a lot of people wasn't really talking about, accepting him in the past. And now you want to accept him when he beats Teofimo Lopez and he's basically the face of boxing. Oh, he's half Puerto Rican. It leaves a bad taste, man. It's just kind of like, bro, don't just accept motherfuckers when they up there. So that means if a motherfucker's 10% Puerto Rican, once he gets to the top, yo, he's Puerto Rican. We got to learn how to ride with these individuals during the start of their careers or during the times where it's not so popular. That's what I was doing. When it wasn't so popular to push him as a Puerto Rican, I did that, but I also questioned if he's a true Puerto Rican fighter in the sport of boxing because there is a difference. Of course, you could be Puerto Rican in your blood, right? And half black, or whatever the case is. But when you join the sport of boxing, there's something that, it's all about how you rep, right? When you go to box strike, there's a flag there. Believe it or not, there's a lot of Puerto Ricans that have the American flag there. You know what I'm saying? When even we talk about Keith Colon has the American flag, if I'm not mistaken, on his joint. Like he's a American fighter. So technically, in the sport of boxing, these fighters, they're a lot of their, how would I say, a lot of their accomplishments, a lot of their, legacy will be embedded in the American boxing legacy, but will be embraced by the Puerto Rico boxing. You know what I'm saying? It just won't really quite be in the history of Puerto Rico unless they decide to change that so that way it could be documented as them being Puerto Rican fighters. But fighters like Keith Colon don't get questioned because guess what? He really shows the pride of being a Puerto Rican. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I'm okay with it as far as saying, yo, he is a Puerto Rican fighter. Because even though it's not stamped as him being a Puerto Rican fighter, but he's really putting on. So I'm okay with that. If Shakur Stevenson continues to do this, we could say, yo, we have to embrace him as a Puerto Rican fighter, but don't just do it now that he's the face of damn near boxing right now. That's what I'll say.
Well said.